What's happening, everyone? I'm James, Managing Director at STABLECOINS and co-founder with Maximilian. He's very kindly let me come on the channel today to share with you some insights and information about stablecoins. What are they? How do they work? What are they used for? And go through a few examples. So let's get cracking. So first of all, a digital stablecoin, what is it? Well, as the name suggests, a stablecoin is a digital asset that remains relatively stable compared to a certain currency, commodity. The most typical use case we see stablecoins applied to is representing a US dollar. As a global currency of the world, it's just the most relevant to operations it's applied to. There are three types of digital stablecoins. Those that are traditionally collateralized, which means backed by, those that have crypto as their collateral, and the third, which is algorithmic, which basically means they have a mechanism in the code that releases more of the currency in order to drop the price, or restricts the supply of that currency in order to increase the price. On the right-hand side of the page, you can see these 5 most important characteristics that stablecoin should have. First of all, it sounds obvious, but it's got to be stable, and we're going to look at a few cases or examples in a minute. You can tell me whether they were stable or not. Interoperability is really important. That's why a lot of the main stablecoins that we see today are built on Ethereum. You have a stablecoin that's maybe on Waves protocol or an EOS protocol. You're going to struggle in order to integrate it with an Ethereum smart contract. So you want to have something built in Ethereum in the first place. Liquidity. I don't want to have a stablecoin if I can't sell it. What's the point? Right? It's no good collecting stablecoins if then when I want to cash out into fiat, they're not available. Security, as with everything in crypto, security is paramount. Talking about digital assets, they can be let's say reallocated if we're not careful with how we deal with our private keys and storage, or perhaps have a 51% attack. And measurable. You need to be able to gauge actually how much of that stablecoin you have at any given time. So now we're going to go into each one of these use cases. Additional collateral. So what does it mean? In my opinion, it's centralized digital money. You could almost say it's not a cryptocurrency, and a few people have issue with it being thought of as a cryptocurrency in the sense that it's centralized. What does it mean when we say it's centralized? Well, take an amount of dollars, let's say $100,000, lock them up in a bank, and then for each dollar, you create a digital version of that dollar. So what that means is you need to have a bank in the first place. You need to have a company that owns the bank that's regulated. You need to have money laundering reporting officers, have directors, have a board of directors and governance structure around how those dollars can be moved. That's not decentralized. That comes down to a few people making the decision on when those dollars can be present or not be present. However, it is the most stable use case that we have. Stablecoin, or let's say example, really use case as much example. Typically we have 100% collateralization, which means that for every dollar we have a digital dollar. And it's fairly straightforward. Other types of collateral that you can use to back a traditional collateralized stablecoin are pounds, yen, currency of Japan, big crypto fans, so that was an important one to introduce. Euros, haven't got it on there, a bit sour about the whole Brexit stance, so I'm trying to get that it even exists. And of course gold. On the right hand side you can see that collateralized stablecoins, in this example Tether, are pretty close to stable if you take the dollar as a peg. Second up, we've got crypto collateralized stablecoins. So similar to the first case where we have a basket of goods or currencies, gold or dollar in the case we were looking at, that we're issuing a digital representation of. We're doing the same thing here but with crypto. This can be considered as decentralized digital money. What do I mean by that? In the same way, the first example, we were talking about a bank holding on to these assets, having to be regulated under the laws where the country holds those assets, registered. With a decentralized digital stablecoin, the mechanism for issuing the stablecoin versus holding the collateral can all be done on chain. In terms of the output, it's similar to a peg. We keep the value close to, in this case, Makerdao Dai, we keep the value close to $1. Unlike a traditional collateralized stablecoin, we have more than 100% of the value actually locked up. Slightly high volatility, as you can see on the right hand side of the page, although quite successful at maintaining a peg the dollar. Now, Makerdao is an extremely exciting project. I'm not going to go into detail now because it's a whole sort of rabbit hole, exciting on-chain governance that we could talk about. It's a little bit outside the scope of the video. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. Let me know in the comments that you want to know more about how Makerdao works, and for sure I'll get back on and go in more about that in the future. Third and finally, we have algorithmic stablecoins. So in this case, the stablecoin is not secured by an underlying basket of goods. It's not off-chain, dollars in a bank. It's not on-chain, Ethereum in a wallet. It's literally a program written into the contract that says we've got too much of that currency in circulation, and so the price has gone down because essentially we've flooded the market. In order to then increase the price, we need to bring an element of scarcity into the equation. So we would buy back those digital currencies from people in circulation. So the prime example of this is Nubits, N-U-B-I-T-S. You can see their logo there. Again, they pick a dollar value to peg against. This type is very volatile. You know, a big reason for that is that you're constantly having to react to the market. And again, there's a lot of complexities in the actual programming that dictate whether it can surely hold its value or not. Again, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail here. If you want to know a bit more about algorithmic stablecoins, Nubits, or any others, then let us know in the description and I'll get back on the channel. Final thing to note about algorithmic stablecoins, they are most volatile of them all. Think back to that first slide, those 5 must-haves of a stablecoin, right? One of them was to be stable. Fortunately, Nubits has had some black swan events as of kind of beginning of last year and has lost its peg to the dollar. So the most decentralized of them all, but also unreliable at this point in time. Just to note, actually, there was a project called Basis that was working off of senior shares. It was essentially acting algorithmically as a central bank, issuing bonds and buying back from the market in order to keep the value stable. They raised 130 million. It was a guy called Jeremy Gartner, who's like one of the first kind of poster boys of the crypto space. Like, incredibly smart guy as well. But unfortunately, they decided that the project wasn't going to go ahead. They had to give back that 130 million, and now this be in circulation. So now we're going to look at a brief history of stablecoins. It's important to note stablecoins are not a new phenomenon. No, they've been around since 2014. There are now over 55 identified stablecoins in the market, 40% alive. The other 60 are in the pipeline. Put that into perspective then, 60% of this stablecoin space is currently in the planning phase, which means there's clearly an interest in developing stablecoins and bring them to the market. Why that exactly is a little bit outside the scope of this video. There are good business models around issuing a stablecoin that I'd love to go into. If you're interested, drop it in the comments and we'll bring it up in a later video. Looking at this history of stablecoins, First onto the scene were Tether, Nubits, and BitUSD in 2014. BitPay and Steam came in 2015-16. And as you can see, 18, again, some big names popping up, including the Gemini dollar, which is the Winklevoss twins, with over 10 planned for 2019-20. Tether is the biggest holder of volume in the stablecoin market. Currently, over the last 180 days, we can see that Tether did about $3.6 billion of volume, with the whole rest of the stablecoin market making up less than $0.2 billion. I've just taken the top 5 here because outside of the top 5, we're really looking at minuscule volume. But the graph on the right shows the share amongst those top 5 stablecoins in the market. And you can see Tether's doing somewhere between 95 and 98% over the last 6 months of trading. There are competitors coming in that are starting to challenge that market share. We can see Trueusd, Paxos, and CircleUSD, which is the dark green, brought by Circle, which I believe is a Goldman Sachs backed stablecoin. We can see that they are starting to take some market share, but still significantly small players in what is really Tether's market. So final slide to go through are the use cases. I'm not going to touch on them all. There are a lot of them. I'm just going to touch on the ones that I think are the most exciting. First and foremost, settlement of smart contracts. I think this is something that I haven't seen brought up enough in the past. If you have a smart contract, the benefit of it is you can lay out an agreement between 2 parties without needing a third party or a escrow service facilitate the execution of that contract. And that contract may happen immediately, or it may happen based on an event in the future. Let me give you an example. If I'm taking a flight, when I book my flight, I get into an agreement with the airline company that if my flight is more than, say, 4 hours delayed, I should get a rebate on my ticket or a kind of cashback of up to £400, as an example. Right, so as soon as my flight has been more than 4 hours delayed, I don't want to have to deal with anyone at the airline company or any lawyers or anything like that. I entered into that contract. I just want to get paid out. And that is one of the biggest selling points for smart contracts, is these automatically executable smart contracts without the need for any kind of third party. Now, imagine if we were using Ether in order to pay out. Ether's price is very volatile. So say I need to program into the smart contract that when the flight is delayed by more than 4 hours, they need to send the equivalent of £400 worth of Ether at that point in time. And then Ether changes. So is it £400 at the point where my flight was delayed? Or is it £400 at the time that it hits my wallet? Or is it £400 at the time that I actually get to extract that Ether and into an exchange and into pounds? And so the volatility that we have in traditional cryptos like Ether makes it quite difficult to have these smart contracts be really independent and decentralized, because we've got so many variables. The price. Now, imagine if we're using a stablecoin. Let's take Dai for an example, so it's still more decentralized. I can then get paid out in Dai, and I can hold it for another 3 months until I'm able to liquidate it into pounds, shillings, and pence, knowing that the value isn't going to. So I think smart contracts can be massively assisted in their sort of real-world use cases by bringing stable coins into the equation. We've also got dividend issuances for STOs, similar sort of thing. I need to pay out to my investors at certain given points in time, and they need to get. They don't want to be exposed to the volatility of the currency that is being paid out. But if it's an automated dividend issuance, you have the same question of the currency that you use and how you protect against the volatility. Stablecoins. And the third and final that we'll go through is looking at a unit of account. Blockchains are about decentralized ledger. I'm going to do that bit again. So the third and final use case of stablecoins that I want to talk about is unit of account. What is blockchain all about? Blockchains are distributed ledgers. A ledger is an account of who owns what, who has paid to what, and who has received what from what, in its most basic sense. How can we account for values if we're using a currency whose value is always changing? So, if I want to keep track of my Bitcoin, then, and I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, then I'm going to be only interested in that ledger that's recorded in Bitcoin. When we're trying to bring crypto into the wider sort of economic environment, not everyone's ready to use Bitcoin, right? We're just happy if they buy Bitcoin, but they're definitely not ready to use them. So we need to find a stable unit of account that they can use in distributed ledgers, right? And that's another great case for stablecoins. Okay, so that's all for me. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you had any questions or want to hear more about some of the topics I raised, please drop it in the comment. I'd love to share it with you. Really enjoyed kind of putting this together and talking with you today. Follow me on Twitter, James on the Chain, and check out the BitAssist website if you haven't already. That's all. Thanks, guys.